Hi, this is Gary Smalltons. I want to just go through like what my philosophy on what modes and what scales are. I'm not saying the ideas I have is right. It's just something that's working for me, and it's a way I get my head round improvisation and using modes. Now, a big mistake I made, and it sort of threw me for a loop for a lot of years, is when people talked about a pentatonic scale or a blues scale, let's say like an A1. They were talking about like an A minor. Now I know that's valid, okay, and the notes of the A minor scale, like the C major scale, are all part of the A pentatonic scale. What threw me for a loop is when I was trying to research and look into mode scales, and how the natural minor scale is actually the 6th degree of the major scale. Okay, now I was trying to run alongside this idea that this was a natural minor scale, which is all nice and dandy, but when it was coming down to improvisation and I was trying to use other modes, it just wasn't working. So if I've got big gaps in my knowledge, I do apologise. Well, this is the way I get my head around it. So I think of the blues scale and the pentatonic like it's an A, right? I think of that as a Dorian scale. I think of that as the 2nd degree of the modal system. Now, if we think that way, things start to make sense, okay? Because all the notes fall into place. You can also turn all of these mode scales into pentatonic scales, and these fall exactly in line with the progression of the shapes of the 5 pentatonics that move up the neck. Like for example, A minor, a blues scale, pentatonic, you know, it's the same thing, but it's got that little chromatic bit, you know, up to the 5th, the 4th, the diminished 5th and the 5th, you know. So we've got like the A pentatonic, and you've got that bit on the top because it's an extend, you know. Now, if you think of a G, you know, also that is basically a Dorian scale, you know. You know, that's a Dorian scale, you know, so it's just like a G major scale started on the 2nd degree. But also what you can do is you can noodle about linking these like G major, whoops, major, whoops, to Dorian, to Phrygian, which is the 3rd degree, to Lydian, you know, to Mixolydian, and then back to the natural minor there. So where we were thinking before that A was a natural minor, right, it screwed up because the natural minor was the E of the G scale. Okay, so if you think of the pentatonic is the Dorian, all the modes fall into place. And also, I mean, most of your noodling with rock is in pentatonic. You can mix in the other scales, so you can toggle between a pentatonic sort of idea, which is, I think, quite angular, you know, to modal ideas which are more flown and more legato. Like for example, if I was just noodling about in pentatonic, it might be something like this. Is just off the top of my head, mind you. And I could put like you know that major scale. You know, just put that in with the pentatonic. Likewise, the Phrygian, you know, and this sort of gives it like a bit of a, you know, what Santana plays on this a lot, you know, so I might be going. You know, and again, I've mixed in like a pentatonic. You know, that chromatic run, that is the 4th, the diminished fifth and the fifth. Okay, so I mean there, just in that bit there, I've got three scales. I've got G major, I've got Dorian, or you know, I'm toggled between Dorian and this sort of A pentatonic A blues scale, and then I've got B Phrygian. You know, so there's just by itself as a whole scope. And then the next one up is B Mixolydian, which is a major with a flattened seventh. So it's a more triumphant thing. It's a great way to resolve. Now, if you sort of convert all these scales into pentatonics out of interest, the Mixolydian pentatonic is the same as the major pentatonic. So that's instantaneously, you've got an extra scale and an extra fingering. That makes life a lot easier for yourself. So what I'll do is I'll just quickly go through these scales again, and then what I'll do is I'll show you some modal ideas across some backing tracks. Okay, so I'll just go through the scales. So we've got obviously got G major. And you can play that in a couple of positions. You can play it there. You can play it like sort of like, which is like the first scale that you learn this way. And also, you've obviously got an option to play that in an open position. You know, so you've got open strings in there, which is a way that you can traverse the neck really easy. But that's a subject of a different video in which you can do an open string, and you can use that time that you're saving playing an open string to move up a position, and that's a great way to change modes. So, you know, I digress anyway. So you got major, and then what I tend to think of is your blues scale, which is here. Okay, then you've got like a Phrygian. You know, and then obviously just the one semitone up is your Lydian, which is like a more major feeling one. But the Phrygian can be a bit of both, you know. And then you've got... Is that right? I think that was right. And then obviously you've got the A minor there, which is effectively just like an open G shape starting on the E. Okay, or you can start it from here. And then all of this you can mix together. Okay? I'm not an amazing guitar player. I'm not an academic music lexicology, but I think that's just a little bit where I'm coming from. Okay?